welcome back to Oddie's Angling TV. Doing a quick review of these rods here. These are my brand new FreeSpirit 13-foot Hi-Sives. They're custom built and they are a peach. Now, FreeSpirit make absolutely incredible rods. They're probably one of the best rods in the marketplace, certainly in my opinion. And it's also the opinion of a lot of anglers, famous anglers even, that I would take a lot of stock of what they're saying. Now, what makes them so special? Well, the first thing is they employ Japanese carbon at 40T. Now the 40T stands for 40 ton. 40 ton of pressure. Most rods that are on the market are anywhere between 20 and 30 ton of pressure. The more pressure that's applied to the carbon in the process, the more air is expelled, the tighter the carbon becomes and the more quality it becomes. Japanese carbon is probably the best carbon on the market. There's nothing really to touch it, and that's why the FreeSpirit lads have gone straight to Japan to get their carbon for their Hi-S range. The build quality of these rods is stunning. Sometimes you read a lot of different things on forums where you read, people that are not so happy with bits and pieces. And one of the things that was coming out over the last while that I've been reading was that a lot of people were moaning about the build quality of the FreeSpirits. Well, I can't speak for what their own experience is. All I can tell you is mine. I've had the privilege of looking at pretty much, well, not all of the extensive range of FreeSpirit rods, but certainly a good chunk of them through Main Irish Angling. Main Irish Angling in Ireland have become one of the main tackle shops to sell FreeSpirit rods, and having a look at their pike range, having a look at their carp range, all I can say is from what I can see, I don't see any issues with the quality of build. My particular rods here are custom built. Now they're very vanilla in one sense, because I didn't go for anything that was too exciting. The only change I made was I wanted the butt, the top of the butt section to the reel seat to be a little bit longer than the standard 19-inch factory build. And the reason being is that if you're into casting, or you listen to any of the professional casters like Hutchie from FreeSpirit, or you listen to Terry Edmonds, they will all tell you that you should actually, the way you measure a rod is to take your reel in your hand, the way you would normally hold it, and extend your arm out. And the butt should come right into your armpit. Now, my arm length is 22 inches, so hence I had 22 inches of space between my reel seat and the end of the butt. So mine actually fits me perfectly. Mark, my fishing buddy, also got a set of FreeSpirits custom built, and he got them to 21 inches because he's slightly smaller arms. I went for 13-foot rods purely because, again, I wanted a rod that I could really pretty much hit any distance I was capable of casting to. And I'm using the word capable of casting to because in the right hands, these rods can hit 200 yards, which is a phenomenal cast. Most guys can't cast past 100 yards. I often get, I listen to people talking and bragging about how far they're casting. When I look at it, they're not even close to where they think they're going. Anything over 150 is extreme range. Anything over 120 is extreme range in my book, to be honest with you. Up to, anywhere over 100 is long range fishing. 100 to 130 is fairly decent casting. To go beyond that, now you're talking about specialist tools to do the job. And these, in fairness, are those rods. They will handle leads up to 5 ounces. The Japanese carbon allows for very, very quick recovery of the tip, and the 13-foot length gives you an extra arc on the cast, and it means you can propel the lead faster on the ejection of where your finger leaves the line, so it starts its travel. The 13-foot allows for a better propulsion of the lead. In the right hands, as I said, these will cast 200 yards. I haven't measured myself yet. I would like to marry them up with proper casting reels before I did that, and obviously then step down the line to a 10-pound mainline mono, something like Pro Clear, and then obviously a 30 or 40 even up to a 50-pound armour cord leader. As it stands, I'm using 16 pounds straight through. You know, flicking it out to 100 yards is not an issue with these rods at all. I've already done it today. It's just not an issue. It just sails the leads out. One of the features I do like about the rods are that they are finished in a non-lacquered material. They get finished in this thing called a Perdurable coating, and basically that's what keeps them really in good nick for years and years down the line. They don't have any heavy varnishing or heavy resins put on the rod, so what you see is the ground down Japanese carbon in its full glory. The reason being, a lot of rods on the market have lots of dinks and bits in the carbon that shouldn't be there, and they get covered up by heavy lacquering. FreeSpirit have moved away from doing anything like that, so that you can see what you see is what you're getting. As I said, being Japanese carbon, it'll last you many more years than bog standard carbon. They have a number of carbons in the range. The E-class are made out of Taiwanese carbon. They've had to come down to cover the costs. They've had to come down to a slightly lower grade carbon. But if you want the very best, then the highest range is just going to fit your bill, no problem. The Perdurable coating that they put on this not only keeps the rod looking matte, which again I prefer, because when you're casting or playing fish or just even winding in, heavy lacquered rods can sparkle in the sunshine, and there is a chance that you could spook a fish. I know it's a bit of a long shot, but do you know what? I'm just not mad about anything that's too flashy on a rod. The coating, as I said, has a way of protecting the carbon from scratching and from abrasions, and it just looks after them. That's not to say they're not going to get scratched. They're rods, and the more you abuse them, the more they're going to get dirtied up. But that's that's fishing. These are Hi-Sive rods, so they can handle leads up to about 5 ounces. And as I said, they're a casting tool. You basically have the Hi-S, you have the Hi-Sives, and then you move up into the complete 100% casting rods of the Hi-S 200s. To be honest with you, I wanted a rod that I could launch a lead a fair distance with, or a PVA bag, and I'm also doing a lot of weed fishing here. So I wanted something that would be able to handle those situations for me, but I still wanted to retain some enjoyment on the fish. When you're playing a fish on a snooker cue, it's not really much fun. So I managed to blag out on this rod here last night a 16-1 common, and the great thing about it was it felt like a player's rod. The tip was nice and bent over. It locked up very much in the middle section. This whole butt section here just didn't move at all. Most of the playing action was in the first sort of 3 to 4 rings, but it was soft enough. This fish went up and down these margins and was lunging around. It was heading for the reeds either side of me at occasions, and I was able to put the brakes on quite handily and stop the fish in its tracks. There's plenty of backbone in these rods, but as I said, the tip is forgiving enough that when he was lunging around, there was no chance of a hook pull. Now, we're winter fishing now. This is coming up to the 7th or 8th of October now. It's absolutely gone Baltic cold, northerly wind pushing straight into me here, and it's pretty rough conditions. Launching a lead out in these conditions where you're basically casting into a headwind is a nightmare, especially if you've got PVA bag on. No problem for these rods. These rods are launching it straight out 75-80 yards, no issue whatsoever with a PVA bag on. And yeah, any other rod that I've owned to this date would not be coping with that situation at all. Another lovely little feature that these rods have, they have a little isotope fitted into the actual reel seat. I'll get to the reel seat in a second, because the reel seat is very sexy as well. But these little isotopes at night are blue, to match the blue whippings that they've whipped up the rod with. That's a nice little feature, matching isotopes to the whipping. Stunning. Good, a lot of thought's been put into making sure that a custom built rod is worth the money. The isotopes are fitted into a slot here, and then they're obviously packed with resin so that they don't bounce out or come out while you're fishing. Back to the reel seat, because the reel seat is a rather dinky looking reel seat. The reel seat is this cloned carbon effect that marries up with the actual carbon of the rod. So it actually looks like it blends all the way through. It looks like this part of the carbon rod running through. It's a lovely little feature. Will it put any more fish on the bank for you? Not a chance. Is it going to make it look good and tarty on the bank? Absolutely. It's those little things that, for me, make a big difference in a rod, because let's face it, we're paying top dollar for these things. And if you want to pay that type of money, you need to have something that not only does the job and is you know, everything it's meant to be, but it should look good too as well. 50mm butt rings are a must for a rod of this nature. And again, it's just, they are stylish, they're stunning, even down to the pointed butt cap to protect the end of the actual rod if you've got it, you know, in a standing up position when you've just landed a fish. It all adds to the quality. Whippings are superb. The lacquering over the whippings is very neat. All in all, I have to say, ever so impressed. It's a big financial outlay for a set of these Hi-Sives initially, but these rods are going to last you a lifetime. And if they gets to a stage where they just look that really worn down and you've got, you know, whippings and stuff all beginning to, you know, the lacquer kind of lifting off because you've been fishing in France in sandstorms and whatever, you can actually send your rods back to FreeSpirit and they will rebuild them for you. Obviously at a cost, but they'll strip everything off and restart and polish up the blanks for you, and you will literally have a new set of rods back to you. So that's a great feature. FreeSpirit have really, as I said, started to dominate the market on the rod front. In my opinion, they are the best rods in the world. And I've been watching, my mate Mark has had numerous sets of different styles, and mate in England, Rob Coleman, he's been using them and raves about them. So I'm finally moving over. I mean, up to now I've been using Century NGs. Great rod, great player's rod, but very soft, even at 3.5 pound test curve. There is no test curve rating on these rods because they're a Hi-Sive, but they will handle leads up to 5 ounces, so that puts them in the 3.5 pound test curve class and maybe slightly over. Very fast action rods. They lock up, as I said, very quickly, so if you are winding up for a cast, they will punch a lead out a long way. And yet they are still forgiving enough that you can use a 1 ounce lead on a zig rig, flicked out 10 yards, 15 yards from the bank, and still not have any issues with hook pulls. To me, that screams quality, and partly it's because of getting the right carbon, you know, which is the Japanese carbon, getting the right, you know, bits and pieces to fit on it. You know, obviously the guys in FreeSpirit really know what they're at, and it you know, that oozes out of these rods. Factory standard rods, if you are not in the mood for custom built, are equally as sexy and equally as good. So it's just, you know, a matter of what your preference is. But I suggest you check them out if you're in Ireland. Obviously it's going to be Main Irish Angling who are selling these rods. If you're in the UK, there's a myriad of places, including the tackle box, that will allow you pick up, you know, any of the FreeSpirit range. But all in all, I have to say, ever so impressed. And my 16 pounder gave them a nice little run through. It was my first outing with these rods, and so far I can't fault them at all. Here we are, 16 pound 1 ounce, caught on my 13-foot FreeSpirit custom built Hi-Sives. Hi-Sives are a rod that can punch a lead out over 200 yards in the right hands, and yet they retain a player's feel to the rod. Now, don't get me wrong, they've got a lot of backbone in there, but the tip is responsive enough and soft enough that it will take on the lunges of a very angry carp in the margins under the rod tip without suffering hook pulls. So for me, it is the perfect all-round rod. 13 foot, I prefer them. You know, I've been brought up on 12-foot rods, and the 13-foot rods really do make a difference for the casting. Puts on an average of about 15 yards to a cast, according to Terry Edmonds, so that'll do for me. I believe that man. Very impressive rod, superb. Get on the FreeSpirit, that's all I can tell you.